Hello, everybody. Me to jump like that. My volume's up a little high. Hi, it is, oops, let me fix my lights here. It's August 27th of 2025, and this is regarding the journal entries for my session that goes with August 23rd. There's four entries, but I'm only going to read one here, and it's really short and sweet because it's something I remembered after the session, and I'm not sure if it's in my next session without, turning that on and watching it. So let me share screen here. This is the entry, and you'll understand once you see the journal entry. Darn it. So it's August 23rd, Finn. And this was after my session. This Finn is telling me that he left a mark on his victims. It was an X. This way, for whatever law enforcement discovered this person, they knew that it was a cult hit and to leave it alone. Finn would either cut it with the knife or draw it in blood on their skin somewhere. And then one of the four jobs did not happen because the person did not show up. We threw away all the stuff for it. And this is regarding, I was remembering when I was in my 30s being mailed packages with a picture of a person, the weapon to use, a name and a location and a time. And then I would go dispatch that person for, to soften the word up a little bit. But so like I said, I'm not sure if I even read that to John on the next session. So I wanted to add that here. Um, and the reason I'm not reading the rest, it's their journal entries from August 22, 23, and 24 is because you get to hear all of it in the session. And again, sorry, I got a wild hair going on here. I don't want it to be super redundant, and there wasn't a whole lot of extra information that I got to share with you. So I thought I would do, I would talk about the emotion levels of my parts. It was August 1st, I had to update them, and I got a lot of parts. And so instead of doing them every 2 months, I talked to them all, said, how about if we do it every 4 months? Because it literally takes me about, I would say, 4 to 5 hours to do one page, and I have 5 or 6 pages, and so it takes a whole week to do it. And so I wanted to share that with you guys, my update on that. Parts, IFS, here's my emotion levels. Excel document. So here's the pages I've got down here on the bottom. I'll blow this up. I've got June, the parts that revealed up until June, and then up in August, October, December, January, March, May, August. So 2, 4, 6, 8 pages now, and I just started this August one. So this is just a blank form, and what I do is I put their name on it, and I'll talk to you about the rest of these tabs over here. So when I get a part, after I give them um, well, I guess I guess I'll go through that a little bit because I haven't talked about this in a long time. This is my form number one. Every part I get, I put them in order chronologically. And do I always get it right? No. But when I figure out later, oh, you weren't 8, you were actually 10, then I can just take them, cut this, move it, paste it, correct the age, etc. And you'll notice that these color zones is one incident. And so this is their old name on the right here. And on the left is the new name that they've chosen. This is their age and their emotional impact level. So I put them in there first. And I also started to want, I wanted to have an alphabetical listing. So let me see. How many parts do I have now? 1155. I just did arrow yesterday. So that's what I do first. And I do it here first so that because I'm always trying to locate them in time. Where are you? What age are you? And they might say I was 8. And so I'll look at this and go, well, okay, at 7 years old, this is what was going on. We moved from this to this to this, into this, and then we're 8 years old. And for me, I have a little bit of a challenge because they could tell me I might know the year or not know the year. And my birthday is in August, so the part might think it's 8 years old, but there's another month or two to go before they're actually 8 years old. So they'll identify with an age that's about to happen, a birthday that's about to happen. Now, so if you have a birthday that's like in January or December, you're not really going to have this challenge, but so this is what I do first is I locate them in space and time. And if through my memories I can figure out where it was, I'll put, spring, winter, fall, summer, and the year so that I can, go, well, wait a minute, this is all the summer. Did anything happen in the spring or fall? Winter 72, then we're into the summer. So I don't really have any entries for spring. Now, I know that this happened first, second, and third. So I know these were all in the summer. And I was in Washington, D.C., and then went to Canada. After that, my father took us on vacation, a whole nother SRA incident. So having like this was spring and summer. So August of 74, I knew that I could look up and on the internet and say, okay, I know absolutely Nixon resigned in 74 and that this happened before he resigned. So he resigned in the summer, so I know it was in the spring or maybe, summer. So that helps me pinpoint things. And in my memories, I can say, well, ask my partner, well, what season is it? Are you cold? Are you hot? What's the weather doing? So I ask my parts question and they help me pinpoint it. So this is the first thing that I do to give my parts existence and reality. That's what I call it, giving them existence, because up until this point, they haven't existed to me. They've been amnesiac. I start getting journal entries and then I put them on my little worksheet right here with sticky notes, the date of the journal with a little keyword so that I know. And after I start collecting a bunch, things start to come together. And I can move them. Oh, you go with this guy, and you go, or 3 or 4 might wind up in a stack on top of each other. And that lets me know that they're of the same incident. So that's what my parts worksheet does. It gives me something and I do everything in pencil, everything. And I had to buy a big old fat eraser. So this is what I do first. The parts list in chronological order. And sometimes I don't even have this figured out yet, and I'll come back and fill it in later. So that's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I figure out their emotional intensity. Are they a positive two, a negative two, or was there demonic influence, whatever? And this comes from Jon Uhler's. Let me pull this out a little bit. You can see there's two sides to this form. This is from positive 10 to 0. So these are these are parts of that have always been conscious to me. This side is for a -1 and -2. Something that if someone were to remind me, like someone in my family, oh, do you remember when we were at the beach and dad kicked you? Yeah, that's just subconscious. I never knew why he kicked me or what went on that day, but I always remembered it. So this is -1 to 2 at the subconscious level. So I call this my support team because they've always been conscious. These are parts like learned how to cook, learned how to drive, learned a job, whatever. And these are things that are just below the surface that if someone brought it up, I'd go, oh, yeah. But I wouldn't know why that occurred. This tab here is the repressed level and wounded kids. Again, on the left, these are the repressed parts, which have different, personality traits or psychological traits, I should say. And on the right here are the repressed and wounded kids. So this is a -3 to a -6. This is -7 to -20. And you'll notice here this red area, these reds and oranges and browns. This is demonic influence. So if there's demonic influence, it moves it past a -10 to a -20 for me. So what I do is I talk to the part and I'll say, well, what do you suppose your emotional impact is? Oh, I'm a -5. And I've noticed that a lot of my parts, they want to underplay their impact. So I'll go to that section and say, okay, well, this is the -5 area. Do these qualities describe you? And if they can pick out one or two or three, then I know that that's accurate. If it does, if just one maybe, or things just don't seem right, I'll go to the deeper level and say, okay, do these qualities describe you? So I'll start them at whatever level they are. And if I'm filling it out and just something doesn't seem right, the part's not really responsive and it's nope, 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 nope. That's what this little squiggle means, does not apply. If they do, then I'll put an X there. So, okay, you two parts follow orders, and you guys compartmentalized pain because these didn't have torture, but these two did. Um, was there sex happening? Were you raped? Yes or no? Um, and they don't always have a ton of qualities. Some will have a lot. Let me pull this out a little bit. And some will only have one or two qualities. For example, like this green section here, you'll see there's what, one, two, three things checked off. But in this incident, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight was pretty intense, and there was demonic influence going on. And how I break apart the demonic influence. Oh, shoot. Am I recording? Yes, I am. Okay. I always freak out thinking I'm not recording. I'm just talking into the air. Anyhow, first, is there just a presence in the environment? Does it just feel, or you could sense it in the space, whatever, demonic presence? Okay. The next thing is, okay, are these demons like involving me? Is it coming and interacting with me, touching me, whatever, or not touching me so much, but is there involvement of the people, the victims there, or the perpetrators? Is the demons involving with the individuals? Yes or no? Because they can be in the environment and not really interacting with people. Once they start interacting with people, things get scarier. So then after it's not just interacting with people now, is there a physical, can I feel them? Are they touching me? Are they messing with me? Are they messing with other people? Is the spirit world transcending and touching the physical world? So that's 11, 12, 13, 14. This is 15, 16. Next is what I call witnessing one-on-one, face-to-face demonic invitation or possession. Am I seeing someone else be possessed? Right? Where the demon is entering their body, a perpetrator, and they are acting out what the demon wants them to. Someone else is being demonically possessed. I would say this level would maybe be demonic oppression, but these levels are demonic possession. And this is of someone else that's, torturing me, raping me, attacking me, whatever. The next level is when a demon personally, if I put one-on-one, face-to-face demonic invitation or possession. Now, am I in a ritual where I am being forced to call a demon to me, and in doing so, it enters me? Now, I know that if you're a Christian, we cannot be possessed. However, as children, I don't know how many of us were baptized and, saved. Most of us that happens after the fact. So as children, I know for me, I had to call down demons, allow them in, and act out the things they wanted me to act out. And that was usually the most terrifying memories. So that's why they're at the deepest, deepest, deepest levels. So that's how I determine my parts. Um, Emotional impact, like here, these are the support team from positive 10 down to a 0. They playful, detached, dutiful, defensive, willful, and test limits, or this is the subconscious level, carefree, sacrificial, little compulsive, follows rules, overly responsible, etc. I've discovered that these two levels work in tandem together in me. That's why they're on the same page. Instead of me flipping from back and forth from page to page, I found that putting them on the same page worked a little more effectively. And then I discovered that the once you get past below a -2 and you're into the three categories, that these two, which is this is the repressed level on the left, and on the right, and I just put their names in here again, are the wounded kids and demonic activity. I've discovered that these two levels in me work together at a very, very, very deep level, be -3 and below. So that's how I determine their impact. Are you a 3 or are you a -19? Probably. Yeah, I mean, this one incident here, this purple, you can see it started off pretty darn scary, peaked, relaxed a lot more, peaked again, relaxed, uh, peaked a little more to a higher level. This incident, 8, 9, 14, 12, you can see how in a single incident, things change and shift. So that's what this gives me. First, I have to put them in order in the timeline. And what was the sequence of events? And I don't always get them right. I might figure out that these things actually happened before these do. When I figure it out, I'll just move them. So this is what gives me the emotional intensity. I'm discovering their psychological makeup. The third thing I do is put them in the timeline graph. Now, what I had to this started off as one page with one graph, that evolved to one page with 6 graphs. And then I had so many people, I decided to make a different tab for each age. This is when I was 3 years old. Oops, shoot. And this isn't always so simple. There we go. So 3 years old, this right here is their age. This is the 0 line. So at 3 years old, everything was abuse. Go to my teenage years when I went to high school. I was 12 and 13 years old, seventh and eighth grade. I'm still below, but it's not so awful. And I had two pleasant experiences, right? Which is pretty sad. Here is high school. Again, uh, a couple of above 0 incidents, but a lot of repressed and then demonic interaction. jump down there. The yellow line means it's under a 10, and then things calmed down. But once I got out of my teenage years and joined, let me see, joined the army, things started getting awful again, you know. I thought there was two choices. So it's 18 and 19. So here's 20 years old. I have two charts for 20 years old. And I know they're hard to see because there's so much going on, but everything is below the 10. The things that happened to me in the military, MK Ultra, SRA. There's a couple of points here where Jesus arrived, and I won't say he saved the day, but he certainly saved me. And after I was, spiritually okay, I still had to go through that incident and get the heck out of there. But if this hadn't happened, I don't even want to think of what would happen. So 20 years old, a lot went on for me. He was 21 and 22 when I was transferred to El Paso, Texas at Fort Bliss. Just one chart. But again, because of all the things that happened the 2 years prior in Germany, El Paso, this new base, they had to MK Ultra me a lot to suppress a lot of that stuff. Had, a couple of pleasant moments, but, that's 20. So this is what this timeline does for me, is I can see my life emotionally. And I think I got something screwed up because I don't have that filled out. Anyway, here's from 23 to 29, my 20s. I'm going into the new age and working. I'm out of the military and a lot of stuff happening. This was the new age, and this was going to Sedona, Arizona, and demonic activity. I'm in my 30s now. I'm being accessed as an assassin. I'm in Milwaukee and Dallas, and different SRA things are happening to me. Um, let's see, what is that? Yeah, this is yeah, accessed by the military, even though I wasn't in the military, and taken to the Getty Center, the Getty Villa at one point, and the Getty Center at another, in the tunnels there. So here's when I'm 40. You'll notice this is the 10, the yellow line's a 10. In my 40s, things got better. I met my husband at 39. I stopped being accessed. My husband and I, had triggered each other. That's what this is here. Some incidents, but things got better. This is COVID right here. And things just started getting better. And lo and behold, I meet another SRA survivor who I'm trying to help. She draws me into a trap, and things, this was my last incident last February. So I was all happy that my life was on a good trajectory, and I'm really disappointed that this thing happened, but I have the sense now that God has orchestrated it for a purpose that I will reveal later, and hopefully it plays out well. So the next thing I do after that, that's giving my parts existence, and they can all see where they wind up on these charts and graphs with everybody else. They see, they don't see the world just as an individual themselves. They are now seeing themselves as a part of a whole, a group of people that are all inside this one body. And they go, wow. And in realizing that they can talk to the other parts. I don't have to be present. They learn from each other. They teach each other. They give each other ahas. This newly emerged part might talk to a part that's been emerged a year prior. And because now they're talking to each other, this older part now says, "Oh my goodness, I had the same thing." And oh my gosh. And so it causes a cascade of more memories because you have co-conscious parts that are educating the parts that are not as co-conscious, if that makes sense. They start to educate each other, and if there's something of import, generally they're just learning, acquiring the truth from each other. But sometimes one will trigger another, and another memory will pop up. And it wouldn't have without them both being co-conscious. So this is the fourth thing I do, emotion levels. I guess I'll get back to this shortly because I'm going to spend a lot of time on that. This is giving my parts existence. So the fifth form that I use has a lot of tabs down here on the bottom. First thing I do is give them existence. I list their old name, their new name, their age, and their impact. And what these X's are on the side is, okay, do they have a part name? Are they on my PowerPoint cover sheet? Do they have a picture? Did I make them a bio? I guess I'll show you what a bio page looks like. So here's the cover pages. It used to be very different. And I call this my life book. I thought, wow, it looks like a yearbook. So I called it a yearbook. I said, no, it's not a year, it's my life book. So we all like this design. So this is the cover page. As they emerge, they go after, like this. I've got three slots before I do another page. So Arrow was my last discovery, the incident that happened this past February. And there she is. She's a serious badass. She wants justice. So anyhow, let me find her. Oh shoot. Word. Oh, I need to go this way because there's 40 references. Arrow literally already has uh oh darn, 29. This is page 30. 31 pages of journal entries for what happened this past February. 31. I forgot to do that. So let me go back and show you her bio page. Um, and here she is. Oh my goodness, I haven't figured out her impact yet. Shoot, see, I missed a step. So let me find Arrow. She's my last part. She's a -16, so I'm glad I'm doing this. -16. I was 59 years old. My birthday was this month, and this happened in February in Iowa when I visited this SRA survivor. Help SRA survivor at Horse Rescue Ranch. 3 attempts on my life. This person used me, manipulated me, and fooled me, and put me in danger and tried to kill me 3 times. There's still one day I cannot remember. And so what I did and how I know that is what I did as my memories were filling in. I thought, okay, I know my flight was there and my return flight here. And so I just made a timeline. What happened when on each day? And I was trying to remember, and I could generally remember the daytime. It was the nighttime that I didn't. These yellow things here indicate the assaults. So I still have this entire day I don't remember. And this was just 6 months ago. So, and I also went through and not sketched, but I used PowerPoint to draw a diagram of the house so that I could show Jon, who I'm going to start doing sessions with again once a month, where these different assaults took place by color coding them and showing him how things moved in space and time. And I didn't want to forget the layout of this house either. So I did the layout of the house, the timeline, and then the journals. But so back to this other form, it's what I call my parts health checklist. I've got their name, their picture. Are they on the cover sheet? Yes. Do they have a bio? Yes. Did I do the timeline with their impact? Yes. Did I figure out their intensity? Yes. Their emotion levels, which I'm going to go into with you. Did I put their journal entries in there? Yes. And I try to do, when I figure out one part or 20, I try to do all of them at the same time. So there's never an empty spot. And I do that so my parts don't feel like, oh, well, you did theirs, but you didn't do mine yet. I don't want anyone to feel neglected. So that's why I do that. And they know I'm anal like that. So they trust that. Then I give them a new life. And here, I'll show you. The first thing I do is I take away their age and their impact. And I leave their old name because it's hard for me to remember 1155 parts. Sometimes I'll remember their old name, sometimes their new name. Sometimes I'll remember their new name, but not remembering what's this in context with. So if I can see the old name, I'll go, oh yeah, you were this thing. So it helps me cross-reference them. So, oh, yeah, do they have a new name, a new picture, new clothes? Have I given them a tour of the house? No. You'll notice here that Spirit does not have a new name, and she never wants a new name, and I don't ever want to give her a new name because she's the Spirit of God within me. So, and then the next thing I do is say, okay, are you ready to destroy your prison? And it used to be real kind of slow. At first, it could take weeks or months before they were ready to. And their prison is simply the physical environment they were in. If they were raped in a bathroom, we blow up the bathroom, or we destroy it in some fashion, or we might do the whole house. So, and they'll tell me what they want to use: acid, a bomb, lava, quicksand, a spike in the top of Dead's head, cut off his hands, and a sledgehammer him in the face. So it can be destroying your perpetrator and or the environment. This one, machine gun, all perps, and then 8 jet bombs on the building. Because I had these 8 parts working together. And so they all agreed on how they wanted to do it. And later these guys popped up and had different things they wanted to do. Dagger in grandma's eyes and then jet bomb on the building. And that can only happen. You can only destroy their prison. That's where they live. That's where they've been submerged in amnesic for, 50, 55 years or however long it is for you. If they don't have someplace to go to, they're not going to destroy their prison. So what I say to them is you get to live here with me. And because having 1155 different people co-conscious and trying to cook dinner, it gets a little unruly. So I say, look, you can be here with me. Shoot, I went too far. Be here with me. When you need something from me, pop your head up and get my attention. Or if I need something from you, I can dip my head down into that area and ask you a question. But what I did was I built them a world where they can live and be safe with each other inside of my subconscious. So they're just below the surface, living in a place called Lake City. And my parts created this world, the very first ones. And this is what it is. It's the mountains with a waterfall and a big lake, Lake City. And I created housing for them. These are log cabin homes where my dream home, a log cabin house in the mountains. These housed up to 25 people each, and I've got a ton of those. These house up to 10 people each. These house 5 people each. And I looked this up on Google Images, and yes, it's time consuming. Some parts wanted to live, let me see, these are 3 people each. So depending on how many people they want to live with, they choose where they want to live. Some little ones wanted tree houses, so a little one and an adult part lives with them there. Or maybe just an adult that wants to live alone. I have other adults that want to live alone, but they want to live in tents out in the forest itself. So this is like a community center, with the, stove and everything, but they want to live in tents. And I've got them kitchens, bathrooms, living rooms. They can choose what they want. If they're in a big house, they get a big kitchen. Let me show you that. Something like this. If they're in a medium-sized house, a medium kitchen. If they're in a small house, a small kitchen. Yeah, this is very time-consuming. Bathrooms and bedrooms. We twin beds or bunk beds for little ones, or huge beds for some of my big Hulkamania dudes. And I gave them an environment, a cattle ranch, a hog farm, a chicken farm, organic gardening, orchards, fruit, and a communication center where we can all talk to each other, a deprogramming center. This is Jasper. He used to be Jack, my handler, who programmed me. Jasper wanted a new purpose, and it was to be the deprogrammer. So that's what he does now, his new purpose. They have a library in school so they can learn. They access everything I've ever learned. And this is just a visual representation of that. This is their town. They got clothing, jewelry, a trading post, a diner, ice cream, pizza, burgers. I built them a world. And Ted, they all know that they need to work on Ted, all of them, until they are peaceful and happy. So they know this is a big deal. Ted's a part of their daily, weekly, or monthly routine. Some parts want to do target practice, and my husband and I go do that in the real world. I use fake knives on Ted, or hand-to-hand combat, or kicks. So they know that they have the fun stuff, rock climbing and whatever, because my husband hunts and fishes, and I like to go hiking and stuff. We love to mountain bike. So the things I do in my real world are represented here, but the things I don't do any longer, and maybe if I run into a swing set, I might swing a little bit for the little ones, but they have it present in this world so they can play. They can go swimming, ice skating, rollerblading, singing and dancing, and this is our town, botanical garden, a fountain, and this bridge, they can go anywhere they want in town crossing this bridge. We have a community center with different bulletin boards, pros and cons of the cult, pros and cons of my dad, you know, pros and cons of accepting Jesus. And that's our town. These are 3 by 4 foot signs in town near the community center, the communication center, the deprogramming center. All of them go through this. So without a world, without a home for them to go to instead of their prison, they're going to stay in their prison because they don't know what this world is like. But if they have a subconscious world, they can poke their head up and go shopping with me. And I'll show them. I'll give them a tour of the town. I'll give them a tour of my house. When I walk my dog, I give them a tour of my neighborhood. So create a place for them to go to so that they can destroy their prison. And I'll tell you, every time we destroy a prison, I feel it leave me. I'll have a shudder and then a sigh. They don't have to go back there anymore. And I record what they do. This is destroying their prison. This incident happened on my back step of my house. Well, we shattered that step. Didn't need to blow up the whole house, but this part wanted to just shatter that step. And once we did, oh, he doesn't have to go back there anymore. He doesn't have to look at it, think about it, nothing. We remember it, but he's not trapped there. So that's giving them a new life. Do they have a new name, picture, clothes, a tour of your home, your neighborhood, your town? Don't listen to the radio in your car. Talk to your parents. Have we destroyed their prison? Then I go in and I check their body issues. Again, no age, no impact because they're going to grow up and their impact's not going to be -18. With your TED work, it's going to move them to a 0 and even a +10 once they become peaceful and happy. I check on them. Are you having a problem with your eyes? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? Your face, your jaw. I just check all their body parts. Was anything injected into you? How about your sexual organs? And they'll tell me, like these section of parts were raped badly. These were not, but they had traumas regardless. So that's body issues. Then we get into the mental issues. Again, no age, no impact because that was their old life. They are evolving and growing in their new life here with me. Did they have mind files installed? What symbols do they see? And I wish I had written down the actual symbol, but it is what it is. Were cards presented? Was there spinning, earphones, holographs, movies? All these different things. Sleep deprivation. Was there concentration, exertion? Were they embarrassed, humiliated, degraded? Did they go blank? Was their mental system? Was there distortion? This is generally drugs given to you. Disorientation. Do you even know where you are? With hunger, temperature extremes, cameras, tables, windows, doors, animals. And I had another SRA friend that I talked to. She told me that a lot of her programming happened in front of a mirror. So I'm going to recommend to her to add mirror here as another thing. And I probably will later, but I have to enter it in like 12 parts. So I just haven't done it yet. Then I go to their spiritual issues. Let's see, where is the thing? Were there trigger words and phrases used? Now, this could be mental, but I just put it in the spiritual category because generally it might be religious, Bible related things. Were there rules, ordinances? Did you feel abandoned or betrayed by God? And I've also noticed that this is the section where if I choose to abandon God. So, were there curses? Do holidays upset you? Is there communion or baptism? Like a black satanic baptism or communion? Distortion of verse or theology, holiday songs, music, songs, or chanting, compulsion for witchcraft for their covenants, doctrines. Was there a marriage to Satan with a ring or a crown? Or you might have something else added in. The backside's empty. So that's their spiritual issues. Then after I do my emotional checklist, I get into baptisms of my parts because they're peaceful and happy now, and they want a relationship with God like I have with God. They want their own personal relationship with God. And this is where I record the date of the baptism. This is what they're repenting for, and this is what Jesus instructed them to focus on. Right. I didn't start doing this till a few months ago, so you'll see I don't have what they repented for, but that's okay. Things evolve as you go. And so that is their health checklist. Did I give them existence, a new life? Have I talked to them about their body, their mind, their spirit, and or their baptism? So now I will go into the emotion levels, which I've showed this to y'all before, but I just want to keep you updated on where we're at. So I'm going to start with the parts that presented first. And I started talking to Jon. I started recalling memories, I think, the summer before this. It kicked into gear after my husband baptized me on Easter. Started having memories in the summer. By fall, I started journaling them. And by April of 24, I started working with Jon. And it took a couple more months before I even started doing this. So what I'll do is slide this all the way over so that I cannot see the entry before. I don't want to see any of it. And I'll just say, okay, Bonnie, how are you feeling? Oh, peaceful and happy. I'm a little bit nervous and scared. Now, the spirit, she's filled out forever because she's the spirit of God. And she's just always peaceful and always happy. So I thought, yeah, I'll just fill her out forever because she doesn't really have any issues. Her issue in the beginning was me being numb to her. Once I acknowledged her, embraced her, and I was baptized, bam, the Spirit of God was present within me. That's all it took for her. Other parts had to go through TED work. So again, like I say, I don't look at it, the entries before, because I don't want to be influenced by it. And I'll just say, okay, David's angry, or so and so says so and so that. I'll get all the way to the bottom of the page. And I will tell you, I have to cross-reference with my map, this here, and say, okay, Bonnie, what was your thing? I don't remember because this is not in order. They're in order as they surfaced. And we all know that's not in order. So I've got to do a find, look for that part, and go, oh, yeah, okay, Bonnie, this is your thing. So I'll have this on one side of the screen and the impact on the other. I'll show you how I do it. So there's the one form, and then this one I'll put on the other half. I got stuff going on back here while I'm talking. Come on now. Get a little water while this is thinking. So again, like if I don't remember who Tabitha is, I come over here, search, I find Tabitha, I go, oh, okay, I remember you. Tabitha, how are you feeling? And then I'll fill her out. Let's see. This thing is moving slow. So I guess we don't really need this up there right now. Sorry, my computer keeps freezing today, I think because I'm processing some stuff. So once I get done with the whole page, and as you can imagine, I made one page about 22 to 2,500 cells, which that's, I think, about 125 parts per page. So I do one page in a day, could take 4 or 5 or sometimes 6 hours. And I try to just take 1 week and get it done. Oh, excuse me, I need smoke. Once I get done with the page, then I'll pull it out and I will look at it. Like, okay, on the far left, we started off angry, in fear, numb, in despair. You know, red is angry, orange is terror or fear, and blue is despair. The light blue and yellow are peace and happiness. So you can see how they started off. And as I did TED work, things changed and shifted. Their peace and happiness started, a little, and it grew. But what I'll do is I'll pull the page out and look and see how they have changed. And so over on the right, you can see these parts have had the most checkups because I used to do them every 2 months. So these parts have had 2, 4, 6, 8 checkups. And if you'll see on the right, most of them are peaceful and happy at 10 levels, or sometimes in 9s. They need a little bit of something. Um, and so these are the parts that revealed 14 months ago. They're incredibly peaceful and happy. Some still have a little anger to work. Well, this was their last checkup. And I'll run into an anomaly like this. Well, wait a minute, you were peaceful and happy here, but now you're angry and you've lost some of that. What happened? And they'll say, well, that other part that popped up 2 weeks ago reminded me of this brain business. And I'm pissed off for them, and because I had the same thing, and so anger will come back. So this isn't going to be static once they get perfectly peaceful and happy. But I just set them down, not set them down. I just ask them, well, wait a minute, what happened here? It says, what does this say? Want to beat the snot out of handlers in general. Oh yeah, because I had other parts surface, in this time period that were about handlers. And so as they see these new parts emerge that have all this rage, they kind of get triggered a little bit. And so, okay, we'll work on Ted. It reduced, their peace and happiness rose, and that's okay. So just as you see on the left, let me adjust this. They start off, in their original state, but TED work brings them here where they don't need so much TED anymore. They're peaceful and happy. They're willing to give their time to someone else. But my ultimate goal is for them to have nothing over here and be completely peaceful and happy. Is that realistic? I don't know, but that's my goal. And so this is my first group of parts. And they're generally okay. Like here, again, this part was really peaceful and happy. And then what is this? I put comments. I said, well, what happened? I said, we have to get that video out and warn others because I realized someone had betrayed me and I want to expose that person as evil. They're really mad about what was discovered after this time period. They didn't know it because I didn't know it. But once I learn it from another part, then they get triggered and go, "Ah," So things change. So this is my first group of parts. I think it's about 125 or something. Here's the next set. These, oh geez, that's super tiny. Let me pull this out. Um, so these are the next set of 125 or 150 parts. And you'll see on the right, there's not as many that are super peaceful and happy. This one had happiness, but no peace because they're still pissed off at my grandfather, which I'm wondering if I just didn't forget to fill that line in. But now they're peaceful and happy. I think I probably forgot to fill that line in because they were at an 8 and now it's at a 9. So, and this is what I do is I'll just copy and paste. Oops, shoot. And paste it. So I think I just forgot that one. No, right now the part's telling me make it lower. Okay. Alrighty. So, and that was for that time period. So you'll see on the left, they emerge with issues. And I do the TED work this is every 2 months. Things changed. Like here, perfectly peaceful and happy. Now all of a sudden, bam. Well, I started learning witchcraft, sort out the witchcraft, this part told me, because I wasn't aware I was taught witchcraft until after this part revealed, you know. But you'll see that this next set is generally peaceful and happy. Some still have some anger to work out. There's tens here. This has got a little bit of anger left, a little bit of anger. But again, she started off numb, was furious, and then was numb and a little numb, little angry, a lot angry. The numbness went away, and the anger reduced and reduced, and their peace and happiness rose. So I'll just scroll through here and you can see on the left. Now this just means that they didn't present till this time period, so it's blank. And I'll put their old name here on the far left, but their new name is what I'm measuring, the new part with the new life, right? So that's why these are blank here, because they didn't present till this time period. So oops, geez. Okay, we still got some over there. Okay. But generally peaceful and happy. And this is itself, this is a second set of 125 parts. So that's the first 250 parts that presented are generally peaceful and happy. Some have a little bit of anger to work out, and that's fine. We'll do it with Ted, you know. Let me, instead of doing that, I'll move it a little quicker, and you can see the yellow and blue on the right and the reds and oranges and dark blues on the left. So that's the second page, second set. The third set, these presented later. This is the next set of 120. The third set of anywhere from 125 to 150 parts. I haven't really calculated it. So these presented in October. And here was my last checkup. They did every 2 months. So you'll see these guys aren't quite perfectly peaceful and happy. They still got some anger, nowhere near where they were. A lot are at that level. It's the TED work that does it, and the learning and the going through sessions and talking to Jon, like, um, let me see. These guys are generally peaceful and happy. And I began to notice some parts that were at 10 levels here dropping down to nines. I think, is it on this page? I don't think so. Um, and you'll see the further on I go in time, the later the more anger and stuff they have. These guys still have lots of little bits of anger, and that's fine. Ted will work it out. Let's see, I want to show you one of those where peace and happiness drop. This one I find incredibly dramatic. Total terror into total anger. Really lost it on Ted and focused and went bam to peaceful and happy and has stayed there. So that's mind blowing. Instead of having that slow progression down, this part was quick, you know. So on the right again, a lot of high levels of peaceful and happiness. And so that's the third set of 150 parts, let's say. Now here's the fourth set. These parts pop their heads up in December. Now this one's here because I realized I got it mixed up with something else. So she had levels before this, but I thought that pumpkin, pearl, and diamond were all the same part to realize no, they're three separate parts. These were parts trauma bonded to my dad, to Jack, my handler, and John C. Lilly, my handler, and they each had different names. So Pumpkin revealed way sooner, and what I did was I moved her off the page she was on and I put it together because I wanted to see the progression of the three together. And you'll see their anger levels dropping and dropping, and their peace and happiness levels. And I asked, well, what happened here? Your peace and happiness, whatever, was high. And oh, that's right, because I realized pumpkin was three different parts: pearl, pumpkin, and diamond, turned into Vesper, Vega, and Vita. They all wanted V names. So when pumpkin figured that out, oh, her peace and happiness went down and she got a little pissed off. So you'll see these guys aren't quite at the super high levels. These still have had some fear about chimeras. I think I've worked that out. Let me see. Yeah, this was just a couple weeks ago I did this. So they still have anxiety about chimeras. Are they good? Are they bad? What are we going to do if we ever see one in the real world? You know, they've worked out their fear and anger about it from their past, but they're nervous about it in the present time. That's what this one is as well, is a chimera. But you see, a lot of these guys are peaceful and happy. They've worked out their issues. It's the TED time. So imagine, you have, let's just say 1,000 parts, and 350 of them are totally peaceful and happy. That's 1/3 of you that isn't upset anymore or triggered or whatever. It's pretty cool to think about, but like I said, I'm an 1155, so I just think of it as 1,200. And so far, I would say here I have about 500 parts that are in the high peace and happiness levels. And now still some parts will not jump in at TED time, and that will let me know, okay, Efren, quit avoiding doing TED. They will avoid it because all these other guys are there. And I have to remind them, no, you guys jump in there. You don't make yourself last. Don't put yourself on hold. You jump in there. So parts will avoid doing TED Talk, and the ones that eagerly want to do TED will, but you've got to encourage the ones that are avoiding it. And so you'll see these are still high peace and happiness levels. I would say anything over a 7 is a high rather than a medium. But as time goes on and more parts reveal, okay, so these are all pretty high. They still have anger to work out, little bits of anger, and that's fine. Now, the next page of 150 parts, I'll blow this up. You'll see these revealed in December. And so 8 months they've been co-conscious. You can see how they've changed. This is where I started noticing a lot of the parts surfacing were at the deepest level because they were just numb. That's the gray, numb or completely detached. So they move from numb and detached, little fear, little despair. From numb and detached, they'll get darn mad. They'll start feeling their fear and their despair. Their numbness will drop and the other emotions will rise because they realize the injustice that happened to them. So you'll just notice the left side will have more gray than you've seen before. And the right side, you'll notice these are kind of like moderate peace and happiness levels now because they haven't had as much TED time. See, this is where I started noticing, you'll see here, all these numb parts or totally terrified or completely in despair and depressed or both, moving bam right into anger. And then doing the TED and the anger dropping and their peace and happiness levels rising. But this was fascinating to me to realize, wow, as I have, what is this, 600 parts finding peace and happiness, it's allowed room for the parts that are numb and detached or at worse levels to rise. But those parts couldn't rise without the ones that came before finding peace and happiness. And I love recording this. Yes, it's a lot of work. But I love seeing the progression, and the parts are seeing it with me, and they're explaining how we go from numb to furious to working it out. And now we're little peace, now moderately, and now higher peace and happiness levels. So I find this just incredibly fascinating to measure it. And this one really perplexed me. went from incredible despair into absolute fury. And once we did a lot of TED work. I'm trying to think, Carrie, who are you, Carrie? Let me find her, Karie, and find out why she fluctuated. Okay, this is being sexually abused on my parents' bed. And I remember the bed had this type of a backboard. That's why I chose this picture. But Carrie remembered a moment of that incident, a neighbor walking by the window and scaring my dad. And so my dad didn't abuse me, but I later remembered that no, he just came back from answering the back door with a neighbor boy who came back in that bedroom, and we my dad filmed porn, me and the neighbor boy having, I don't want to say having sex together, because how does a 5-year-old choose to have sex? But my dad was compiling a portfolio. And when she learned that, she just became mad all over again once those other parts revealed. And this is the group of parts. They all start with It was Carrie, Katie, Cora, Kimber. I try to give them, if they're in the same incident, the same letter, their first letter, the same, so I can keep track of them. But these parts were in despair and then went furious, peace and happiness. But it started with, oh, where are you? Carrie. She was happy knowing, wow, I was saved from that moment of rape and whatever by the neighbor walking by. Well, no, come to find out, he was invited in and we were filmed, and she got mad all over again. So that's what happens. And these guys just started off in despair, went to fury, worked it out, and now they're at, mid to high level happiness. So, like I said, different things will happen. But on this page, I realized there's a lot of parts that surface absolutely numb or completely detached. Always move into rage and, whatever. So I thought that was really fascinating. And you'll see these parts are like kind of like mid-level peace and happiness. Still have some anger going on, mid to high levels of happiness, because they've had their TED time. Again, some of them will avoid doing TED. Like this guy got rid of their anger and but stayed at the same level of peace and happiness, just wasn't mad anymore. And now as it's learning and understanding and accessing all the other parts and making friends, a little bit more happy, right? So, that's just it's how it works inside of me. But I highly suggest tracking your parts levels so you can talk to them and see where they're at. Now, this one really perplexed me. I said, well, wait a minute. You were super happy and peaceful. What happened? And the part says, well, you're baptizing all these other parts, and I want to be baptized. I said, oh, okay, I can do that. And so they put in a request for baptism. And I thought, well, how can I keep track of this? Oh my gosh. So what I did was I made a tab for the parts that want to be baptized and put their names on here. And I wound up with 88 parts that want to be baptized. So I printed this list out and I have it by my bed, and I'll pick away at it every night, maybe 2 to 3 to 5 parts, depending on how long each one is. And we'll do it at Lake City, and Jesus will be present. Sometimes Jesus will do the baptism himself. Sometimes I will do it. Sometimes Donna and myself will do it. It's just whatever the part wants. And now you'll notice here that, oops, shoot, I'm on the wrong page. Was I in March? Yeah. Some parts are still angry. And I realized, well, if I realize, okay, you're avoiding Ted, you're not, what's happening here? I made another page for parts that I think are avoiding Ted or specific perpetrators that six different parts may want to beat the snot out of my dad or the Himmler's castle parts. So this is the page, the tab that they're on, so I know where to find them. But they know who they want to beat up or why they want to beat him up or whatever, so that I don't forget. And I'll print this out and take it out to Ted with me. But if as long as they see me recording it, like if there's a song that this part was abused to, I want you to play this song and beat on Ted, because I will forget. So this list helps me to not forget, because it's a lot of parts to keep track of. So I've got the TED work page and the baptism request. Where am I on March? No, I'm on January. So that's how I keep track of who's avoiding Ted. I see their anger level stay the same. I'm like, what's going on here? Are you participating in Ted? They'll either not answer at all, or they'll say, well, me, I don't know. And I said, well, you have to. That's how you get to peaceful and happy. So, you gotta nudge them. You have to interact with them, and that's what this does. Like this, what happened here? I can't remember Ren. Let's see who Ren is. WREN. Right here. Oh, yeah, this was the goat, the bestiality stuff. We had some other bestiality thing come up, and she got triggered and got angry again about hers. So that's what happened there. I remembered a single part for an incident to realize later as more memories came up, well, there's actually 15 parts. And so, as this part that was originally there and peaceful and happy and oblivious, once they realize, oh my God, it wasn't just me, there's 15 of us, well, I'm pretty pissed again. So that's what happens there. But again, you'll notice lots of numb parts are now at mid to high level, peace and happiness. They've got more anger than the others on other pages, but these guys revealed later they just need more TED time. So I'll go through here and see if anything else pops out. Same thing, I noticed this one, the anger went up, so I found her bio, and she didn't really tell me what was going on. She just was more angry. Let me see what Onyx is. Onyx. This was, oh yeah, more Himmler's Castle stuff that I remembered. So her anger rose. And you'll see like these again blank because they didn't present till this time period. Um, yeah, this was a trauma, but it wasn't very super severe. It was moderately severe. So they didn't need tons of TED time. But you could see this guy, oh my gosh, incredibly fear and terror, wanting to kill herself, and furious. Just every emotion peaked. And Ted, bam, worked her down in 2 months. You know, not a whole lot of numb parts here. So I went through a period of numb parts coming up, and then once those numb ones rose, incredibly terrorized and angry and suicidal parts rose after that. So it's like this succession. Now you'll see the more numb parts coming. Numb, 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 numb. You'll see their mid-level peace and happiness. Numb, numb, numb. So I think it goes in for me in waves. You'll have these super angry, super high level and emotion parts, and then a string of numb parts will come up. And then after the string of numb parts, super high levels of anger and whatever. So here's the next page, March. We've got numb, but not super numb. They're mid-level peace and happiness. A big numb one here. They need TED time. He's another numb guy. He had higher peace and happiness and it dropped. I had to look up, oh yeah, this was an army thing that another part revealed. So as your parts learn about each other's experience, they're going to trigger each other, but it's not going to be that off the chart triggering. It'll be, man, I'm mad about that again, when as to where 2 months before they weren't. So, like this one rose a little bit. And this one I says, well, you think you're avoiding Ted? And she's like, a little, yeah, yeah. So I was like, okay, I put her name on my list. Again, these guys were avoiding Ted. And I would have never known that without measuring it. Let's see what else. Again, here, triggered by a new part's information, and they just get mad. It happened to me and you. Are you kidding? At two different points in time and two different locations, these people are sick, and it just get mad, and that's reasonable. It's a reasonable reaction. Now, this one, Bass, why did you wind up going numb again? Let me see what's happening here. Wake, daughter of master of the house with my hand. Oh, oh, lie and say her father is waiting for her. I was remembering how a friend betrayed me, several through my life. And as I was working it out and processing it and making a presentation, this part got triggered and pissed off because this part did to another person what I'm pissed off that people have done to me. So this part kind of went numb and didn't want to feel the responsibility of doing this thing that I'm judging others for when I'm guilty of it myself. So this part went a little numb, the anger rose, the peace and happiness dropped, but none of this would have happened had I not started addressing the other issues. So again, you'll see over here, we're at mid-levels because these guys only revealed last March. When is that? 5 months ago. So they're at mid-levels, and a lot of numb parts came up again. Super furious, terrified, depressed parts, but they're working their stuff out on Ted. I'm trying to get to the section. It's almost a page where it's here's a lot of numb parts. Well, not a lot, as a few, but these are super terrified, in despair, just different incidents. And on the right, you'll see they're at moderate happiness, peace and happiness levels, and their anger or fear or despair isn't so high, but they know that they got some work to do. This part wanted a new name, didn't like this name, even though she chose it before. It wasn't that big of a deal to her then, but she's like, no, I don't like that name anymore. So she went for her name was Anotha, and she said, I want the name Jersey. I said, okay. So she got a new name. So I'm sure that's going to raise her peace and happiness levels. As to where for all these months, she chose this innocuous name because she didn't think very highly of herself. And now she does. She's Jersey. Her identity, she feels strong and confident, and she wants a better name. So I gave her one. it changed all the charts and graphs and forms, and they watch me do it. So they feel treasured. So again, they could request a baptism, they can request TED work, and they could request a new name or a new picture. Sometimes they like, I've outgrown that picture. I don't want that one anymore. So I give them a new picture. And yes, I've got to change it in like three or four or five different spots. But you've got to take the time and effort and energy, and they see that you're putting that time, effort, and energy into just this one little request for them, and they feel special. They feel like you love them, that you hear them, and that their needs are important. So again, here is more numb parts, and they're at mid levels, working up towards the higher levels of peace and happiness. I'll just scroll through here a little quicker. Forgive me, I'm having Jones in for a cigarette. So, yeah. Oh, here was this string of another string of numb parts, together with, high levels of terror and anger and fury and despair. But they've only had, and you'll notice that they always move from whatever level they're in always goes to anger. It always moves to anger. And that's what TED does. It vents out the rage, the injustice, the righteous indignation. And once they can get that out, it generally doesn't come back and their peace and happiness levels rise. So you'll see this huge string of red here going from numb, terrorized, again, they only appeared during this time period, so these parts started off this way. Um, so I find it fascinating to watch the progression and to know that, and here's a few numb parts, quite a few numb parts. And so the next page, which this is second to the last page, but the last page I think only has like 5 or 10 parts on it. So let me blow this up. Now these parts presented in April, and I recorded them 4 months later. So you'll see their levels of numb on the left and where they're at now, mid levels of peace and happiness with some anger still to express. I'll pull this out a little bit. Yeah, these are upcoming checks. Um, just high levels of emotion, anger, terror, despair, all moving into anger. And because they went wild on TED, the minute I discover them, I give them a TED talk and just let them explode. Explode. And they're not afraid to explode because they've watched all the other parts do it. And you all have watched me do it. So, and now you'll notice that these guys have lower levels of peace and happiness and still anger to work out. They just haven't had as much time. And see all this numbness over here. Numb, 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 numb. So they just need more time on TED, more time in the world, more time with me, and these levels will rise. Their peace and happiness will rise. They'll get to know the other parts. They'll get to know me. They'll get to know my husband, my dog, my house, my neighborhood, my, grocery store. They don't know any of that yet. They're still learning. They've only had 4 months in this world, as to where the other parts have been around for 14 months and they're perfectly comfortable. So these are the second, pretty much the last set of 150 parts. And this is where they are. And this part is the smoker was taught to smoke. He's pissed off. We're still smoking. I don't want to smoke. I don't want to be a smoker. but yet I have yet to quit. So I've got probably 5 or 10 parts that are just over the cigarette business, but I think what I need is like 500 parts to be over it. I don't know. Just not there yet. So you can see the peace and happiness are at lower levels. They are still adjusting to their new world. They're still venting the bulk of their rage. These were parts that came up in April. So these guys have lower peace and happiness levels, but they have some because destroying their prison, giving them a new picture, a new name, a new life gives them peace and happiness at just like a one level, you know? And it's not always, the same. This could be a two, this could be a four, but they have something they've never had before. And it really, sometimes they just like to sit in it and soak up that little bit of peace and happiness. Because, wow, I've never felt this before. And some are so eager for it and so hungry for it, they lose it. On TED, they just go nuts and they want it right now. And other parts got to work their way to it. So these are the last set. I think we're about halfway through. These are a little bit higher in their peace and happiness, but they fluctuate. I think because I don't have 750 or 1,000 parts that still need all this time on dead, that it's this last group of like 500 that need their time on TED or 300, whatever. So it's time. And TED, and recording their journals and talking to your counselor and just interacting with them. And that's what these forms and graphs do. It forces you to interact with them. What's going on with your eyes? What do you see? Your ears, what do you hear? Oh, you got smacked in the ear? Oh, thank you for telling me. Why were you smacked in the ear? And they'll tell you. But without that check sheet, I would have never known so and so got smacked in the ear? Or sometimes a part will tell me the incident and leave out the sexual component. And when I get to that part about sexual organs, they'll go, well, yeah, my vagina hurts and my anus hurts. And I'll go, oh, well, thank you for telling me. And I have to go back to the impact graph and record that they had the sexual things happening. And it makes you go back and rework your paperwork, but that's okay. They didn't feel safe enough until that moment you checked in with them. And once that safety's there and they see, wow, I know that the paperwork part is annoyed that we got to go fix everything that we just did, but look at her, she's doing it. I'm important enough for her to go back and fix that. She's not mad at me. And like, no, it's just how it works. When you're ready, you're ready. Now, these parts revealed, yeah, April, and they have not, or wait, let me check the date on here. April and okay, so these are the ones that started coming up August. Oh, I lost my place now. August 1st, and I was doing this checklist. Took me 2 or 3 weeks to get it done. So I got parts revealing, in August as I'm measuring them. So they're watching me check all these other people. And they're just revealing for the first time where they're at. So they need massive TED time. They've had no TED time except for the past couple weeks. So these parts, and there's quite a few, if you see, they just more known parts, they have just revealed. This is where it's saying I effing hate her. This is my sister. And then these are more parts that revealed in August. And so they have not had TED time yet. They have, but not much. Oh, oh, I did this totally wrong. Well, she was numb up until this point, but I gotta fix this. She's super ticked off. She went from being numb to remembering and then becoming furious and super sad. And this was the part that revealed to me last week. The incident that happened to me in February that I was numb and amnesic to now is like, holy cow, now that we know that this person we thought was a friend was an SRA survivor. No, she's a cult member drawing people in to manipulate them. And this part's really furious. This is my last part that I remember is this. I'm just effing mad. How dare she? Vengeance, because if I can put this person in jail, I'm going to. So I'm going to move this over here because it's in the wrong spot. Now I gotta fix the color. Okay, wrong color, darn it. Wah, 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 wah. Okay, so we'll save that. So those are the emotion levels, and this is the charts and graphs, which I've had, some people make comments on Emma's, people that follow Emma. How can a chart and a graph help you heal? Well, it's because you have to interact with your parts and ask them questions. That's how. And all the charts and graphs you're doing, recording their answers. And the fact that you're taking the time to spend with them and interact with them because they are a part of you. They're what they did caused me to live and survive and not lose my mind or kill myself or wind up in the psych ward. I want to know them. They have strengths and weaknesses, but they're a part of me. I want to know that part of me. So for them, they have not been known for 60 years. And for me to spend that much time and energy on them, even though it might only be 3 or 4 hours in a month, it's more than they've ever had. And the more you love them, the more they know you love them, the more they know you're going to take the time to spend with them and ask them those questions, the more they trust me and give me more information. And for the 1,155 parts that are now co-conscious with me, God knows how many more are still down there. But all those parts below that are still hidden are watching everything going on up there, and they're saying, wow, if 1,155 of those guys can find peace and happiness, I think I'm ready to appear. And that's how the charts and graphs work. They just make you spend time with your parts, ask them questions, acknowledge them, and love them. And I will say, as I'm going through the charts and graphs, I always start off with anxiety, maybe a little teary-eyed, or I might want to avoid it altogether, but I make myself do it. But by the time I finish it, all that goes away. And sometimes when I'm in the middle of doing it, it'll become really intense and I'll get up and I'll hit Ted for 10 or 15 minutes and I'll sit back down and I'm able to approach it again. So take the time. And I want to let y'all know also, let me show you my website because I know not everyone is computer literate. Where is it? I made these charts and graph. It's not charts and graph. I made them for people who do not want to use the computer. It's this section here. Here's my website. Charts and graphs right there. I guess I'll blow this up. Charts and graphs. And you'll see here you can download charts and graphs. The page before just shows you what I just showed you and what they do. this drop down here is where you can download them. I give you beginning your journey, some instructions of basically what I just talked about. New part check sheet, the chronological list of parts map, your your consciousness level of each part, the timeline, the emotion levels is what I just did. You'll see I just downloaded it. I didn't mean to do that. And the health checklist, a life log that I created. Let me find that because I needed to cross-reference things and I couldn't figure out how to do it. Where is it? IFS, life log. Like, for example, I could remember this thing happened and I couldn't remember where I lived, but I could remember where I worked and who my pet was. Or I could remember my pet and the place I lived, but and where I worked, but not. And so what I did was I just started filling it out. Okay, I was born here. I lived in Iowa here. I was in the army here, Milwaukee here. And I went through old resumes and I found my old addresses. I was able to plug them in and to realize, look at my life, all these different types of housing, apartment, a house, a farmhouse, a city house, the barracks, a small apartment, a large apartment, a trailer, another apartment with my mom, another small borrowed apartment, all these different places that I lived. When you look at it, you're like, wow, and all these different addresses. It's mind blowing. Or I couldn't remember, I could remember what I was doing spiritual. Okay, I was in the New Age and I worked at Crystal Dreams and I remember this dresser in this room, but what city was that? So as I started filling things in, um, who is my pet? What part was it? What car was I driving? Things started to clear up. And so this was my life log, and the little color things just show different things to help me remember. So that's the life log. Let me close this too. And then printable forms for those who don't want to use the computer. Let me see if I can find those. I think I put them in a different file. Blank forms. Paper forms, here they are. So instead of having these check sheets on the computer, what I did was I created them. Okay, you get the part, the date it emerged. You're going to give them existence. Do they have a name, an age, an impact level? Do you want to give them a picture? But I think you should definitely give them a bio. What the picture does, it allows the part to think of itself in a different way. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. And it's some work. You got to get Google Images. And if you're not doing this on the computer, you have to print it out and chew up your ink. But I really think it's worth it. Where am I? Gotta move again here. SRA, parts, IFS. Oh, no, I need to go to maps. Maps. I need to show you a particular part. F. Walter. Walter, I've showed y'all him before. I just can't think of another part right now. He was covered in some sort of liquid plastic that hardened, and the only thing allowed open was my mouth to breathe. And he was really freaked out and terrified as he felt this plastic hardening, and he felt like he was being played in a cocoon and was tripped out. And this is how he thought of himself. And when he got a new picture, you'll notice he's got a big old smile and he's laughing. That mouth, the mouth that he was allowed to have open. He he loves thinking of himself like this. He knows that that's how he was born. But this is the life that I have given him, this happiness. For me, the pictures are huge. For my parts, they like thinking of themselves differently. Here's another one. It's the same thing with the encased with, except they put this tube in my mouth. Well, this is how Axel feels about himself now. He's not this thing with this ugliness, you know. This part had its eyes taped open, was forced to watch nasty videos. Well, Dina, this is how she thinks of herself now, not as this. You know, Manny, he was just pure rage. And now he's a strong badass, but he's kind of soft too. He's not this guy anymore. Uh, let's see. Like this guy thought of himself as tunnels. He freaks out about tunnels, but now he thinks of himself as this, Ethan. He's a young man, strong, and he knows a lot. You know, this part, imagine this is how you identified yourself as this ugliness. And now Eli, he's happy, joyful, a handsome, strong young man. So it's choking me up. I love you guys. Love you, love you, love you. And this part, thought of herself as the soldiers kind of, threatened into silence and I'm waiting for handler contact. Always called stand down. Yes. And she's like, no, I'm a lovely young woman. I don't have to wait for orders from a handler anymore. So for me, the pictures are huge. But again, if you don't, that's fine. Try to visualize them differently or visualize them with your own face. But here's the forms. Have you done their emotion levels? Have you vented? These are different, so you could check off how many times you vented. I think I put 20 entries. So I think each part needs 20 times. Did you check on their body, their mind, their spirit? They have a new name. At least always give them a new name when they're ready for it. A new picture, new clothes, and you can visualize this in your mind. Have you destroyed their prison? Do they have a new purpose? Do they want to be baptized? That's existence and new life. The next tab is emotional impact level. So here's your 0 to 10s. You could say, are they detailed? Do obligate, whatever. You do it in pencil, and put whatever notes that the part might want. This is -1 to 2, subconscious. It's a known event that's incomplete and confusing. Are they carefree and nice? Just put a little X, check it off, and put whatever notes the part tells you. This is 3 to 6, again, repressed. Do they have confusion? Are they a workaholic? Are they desperate for connection? Are they aggressively protective? Are they looking for escape? So all those form charts and forms I just showed you, you can just print these out and use them. It's all the same thing. And then the next tab are the emotion levels. You can print this out and use a marker. Use a marker. You have 3 on one page. So for one part, you can print a second page and a third page, whatever, and you'll know the date that you did it and that they are changing. Their anger's reducing, their numbness is going away. Their peace and happiness levels rising. You can put whatever comments they want. Check on your progress venting by filling out this 3 times a year. Your parts will love you for it. Because I do mine every 4 months, 3 times a year. I used to every 2 months, but it's too much now. So you can print these out and just use markers or take a pencil and scribble the level, whatever. You're going to check on their body. What's going on with their eyes, their ears, their elbow, their vagina, their fingers? You just check off the things the parts tell you and put notes on there, whatever the part tells you. Their mind, You know, do you have addictions to food, nicotine, sex, drugs, exercise, gambling? I don't have that on my chart. I have it on a different page that I didn't show you, but I thought I would add it here. And then there's spirit. Are there trigger words, phrases? Was there distortion of the Bible, distortion of theology? All these can be printed out and used. And if you're computer literate, great, use my stuff. But if you're not computer literate, you can print these out now. And I can't believe I didn't do it sooner, but I have two girls that I work with, and they're, no, I don't want to do it on the computer. And finally, after a few months, it hit me, oh my gosh, why don't I take this and do it like this? So please use these things. They will pull out of your parts things you would have never known. Let me stop sharing so you have to watch me close all these windows. So I guess that's it. I hope this wasn't super long. This thing doesn't have a counter on it, and I always forget to look at what time I started. So thanks for coming along with me on my journey. I hope what I'm sharing with you is helpful. I hope it makes your parts feel safe enough to say, look, there's someone else out there. And you've got the tools now. Have something to vent on. A body bag, a punching bag, your bed, buy a TED. If you get the TED, get the full body size one because it's so satisfying to smash the heck out of a perpetrator's penis, you know? Um, anyway, or their butt, if your butt's hurting, you can, whatever. So, I love all you guys. I pray to Jesus that he give you exactly what you need when you need it, to buffer your memories as they arise so that you're not traumatized again, to access your analytical mind alongside of the part and what the part is telling you, and that you can decipher with your part what's happening because sometimes they don't have words. I ask Jesus to be present with you, comfort you, give you the strength to persevere, and put the work in, the time in, and to know that you're loved. Your parts know that you love them and that God loves them. No matter what they did, God loves them. And for you to have your peace and happiness levels that you've never had before. In Jesus' name, amen. I love all you guys. Take care, and I'll see you next time.